Yay! Here, let's
You
retweet
ready? You
this.
ready?
I'm so happy, dude. That was
I know.
like,
I could tell the second I
oh
got
my
on the
god,
stream.
that was what, like 4 hour, 3.5 hours of stress, 3 hours of stress. Oh my
Yet they
goodness.
ended up winning by 12, which is pretty wild. All right,
Honestly, and
let's
until it
save
was
it. Yeah.
over. All right, yeah, let's do it. All
Yeah.
right, ready to go. Here, hold on. All right, here we go. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Park Casino and Sportsbook app. Thank freaking goodness.
Yes.
Oh my God. What a body bag bloodbath game. Players going down right and left. Obviously, the Packers way more. We'll get into it all. But Elliot, I thought about you so much during this game.
Oh,
when
thank you, buddy.
I was so confident and all that. And then today I woke up and I was like, you know what? It was like, I believe in this team. I think the defense is great. I really feel confident with my brain. But if there is a game where they're going to look rusty and Jalen's been out for 3 weeks, it was going to be this game in this spot. And I really was, your survive and advance thing.
Yeah.
That was my whole mantra all game. And until it was over, I was just a ball of stress, but they survived. They advanced. That the defense, when it had to, carried the day, and just whoo,
dude,
woo!
What a dude.
Go Birds, baby, go Birds! Bring on whoever. Let's go.
What a big boy win. What a big boy win. So if you think about it, so my whole mantra into this was just survive and advance. No, not a style points game. Just go in, win the game, get out, focus next week on getting ready to be good enough to go to Detroit and win the Super Bowl. This was about just getting out of it. And here's why I feel that way. And I feel it even more after watching that game. In 2017, they weren't great against the Falcons, but they advanced and they were way better the next week. 2022, the first game was a little weird because they played one of the worst teams ever in playoff history in the Giants, but Jalen wasn't great in that game. But the next week, obviously they get hurt, but they play a better game.
Dude,
right?
The Foles one is like a perfect comparison.
But this game was way harder than those games. The Packers are, look, you saw today what the Packers are. They're very talented, but they're just not a great team. They make a lot of mistakes. They miss throws. They're just not a complete team. But they are better than that Falcons team, and they're way better than that trash Giants team. And while this game was close, I also got to say, they jumped out right away and showed that they weren't messing around. To go up 10-0, look, it should have been 17. Me and Tucker talked about this on the halftime pod, and I'm sure
you could argue even more.
Yeah,
you
honestly.
Could argue even more. I mean, look, they scored best start to an Eagles playoff game ever. It was like the opposite of the Ron Dixon thing.
It was like the 20. It reminded me, unfortunately, of the 2002 Bucks game. Where they go up.
Oh, sure, but that was like a drive. That was like a drive induced. This was like, when the hell does that happen? The first play? Are you kidding me? So,
but if they get even a B- performance from the offense, this game isn't even close. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Is because I kept thinking about something else you said, where you're like, if the Eagles play a B- game or better, they'll win.
And I think that's what they played.
Yeah. I think arguably they played a C- or C type game. Certainly the offense was well below B-. The defense played a great game. So it's hard to parse that. Obviously special teams, Jake minus the missed extra point. But the offense was as bad as we've seen this offense all year. And they won a playoff game.
Before we get into the offense, I think we need to, because I see the chats popping. I'm very excited for everybody.
Give it to the D.
Dude, that defense, the defense, that defense, man, that is why they will win the Super Bowl. That defense right there. Totally. Unbelievable. Dude, Nolan Smith right away, outstanding against the run, gets the sack. They ended up with 3 turnovers and then 4 if you include the special teams one. The interception by Slay, what a play. Zach Bond, I know it gets thrown right to him, but he makes the play. And then
he
Quinion,
was all over the field too, Zach Bond.
He was all over the field.
Special teams. Him and Nolan Smith both making big special teams plays. Anyway, go ahead.
And then Quinion at the end finally gets his interception.
Cheers to Quinion, buddy.
Yeah, amen. Clinches the win, clinches the dominant performance by the defense. Look, the Packers made a few plays. They had one legit drive, I would say, where they got things going. But outside of that, Jordan Love was running for his life all game. He never, ever looked comfortable in the pocket. Josh Jacobs, he had that one long run for sure where the tackling was bad.
Which was awesome.
It was an awesome run by him.
He's
a great player. They're going to make great plays sometimes. But for the most part, I didn't think they got much going there. They contained Jaden read for the most part. Unfortunate for the Packers, like they did deal with a few injuries at receiver, which certainly has an impact. But
and the line, like the losing the guard and then losing the center was late, but losing that guard was a constant problem for them all game.
It's been a while since there was an Eagles game, because we've seen Eagles games like that where they should go up more, they don't, it's close. You're like, oh, I mean, that's a lot of NFL games. It's been a long time since there was a game like that with the Eagles where the confidence they would win it was because of the defense. When it was 10-0, I legit thought to myself, the offense maybe needs 3 more points, like maybe, dude, right? And I don't think they even ended up needing that.
I was like, they better score on this first drive here in the second half. Like Musco, they don't. Like the defense kept responding, and no matter how close it got, it felt like the Eagles should have been up by double digits the entire game. Yeah, obviously they got there, but yeah, dude, it was like again.
I mean, all over the field. It was all over the field.
They got 4 turnovers, and the game was still not in hand by the end of the fourth quarter. You know,
and the thing is, like. Now, and we can say it, we can look ahead to next week because they won and they are advancing. Dude, we get another week of daily pods. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. This morning I was like in a tense mood and Kristen was like, what's wrong? I'm like, I need tomorrow to have, like, I just needed another week of it.
So Emily would say the same thing. I have been a ball of stress all day. We went to one of Zoe's friends' birthdays early. Shout out to Lily. Happy birthday. And I was like, anyone who has talked to me, I'd be like, yeah, I can't. I just like my whole, like if they lose, the next 4 months of my life is miserable. I'm like they have to win. Like I woke up this morning
and that's
feeling it.
That's why today was so big. Like they just had to get through this one. It's so hard to win the first one, especially when you were off for a week. Jalen hasn't played in a month. Look, they didn't get a lot going in the passing game. And Jalen was not good. Let's be honest. Jalen was not good. We'll certainly talk about that later in this pod or tomorrow or whatever. But like that's a big boy win, man. Like to win that game where Packers are a good team. They're probably the best 7 seed in the history of the NFL, which isn't saying much because it's been like 3 years.
11-6. I mean, think about it. The Eagles
they're probably one of the better 6
when
seed.
they were a 7 seed. The Eagles were 11-6 last year, a bad 11-6, but they were still a 5 seed.
Well, you texted this at halftime on the Bet Parks app. The Eagles line at halftime was -10.5. So for as much as we felt this thing was in jeopardy, and look, the missed field goal, you look at that. I'm sorry, the missed extra point, and you go, all right, that's something that can come back to haunt them.
When they got the touchdown, it was like,
yes, exactly. But ultimately, I just think our emotions of wanting them to win so badly, like maybe clouded a little bit, that they were in complete control of that game for like 85% of it, right? And look, I mean, the offense got the Goddard play. Dude,
well, that's where I was going to go. When you were done, I was just going to be like, we can't go further than. I thought that was the play of the game. Like they needed someone on offense to step up and make a superstar play with all the guys they have on offense. And Goddard, of like all the dudes, the one who's like the 4th option, whatever. Goddard was like, I got it. I'll make the superstar play. And that was like we'll remember that play, especially if they can make the run, you know?
And that's honestly what makes the Eagles so dangerous. Like they were not good on
their 4th guy could do that. Yeah.
They just, I mean, look how many times this year they have had not great offensive performances against the Saints. And then Saquon, boom, does that. Tonight, they were not great. Goddard comes out and he makes that huge play. And look, Goddard made a big play in that Saints game as well. So that's the thing about this team. Like if the defense can just, and look, they're not going to play like that every game. Although honestly, like against the Bucs and the Rams, I think those are worse offenses in some ways. The Vikings are hard to get a read on if that's who it is. But the Vikings, I don't think Sam Darnold's much better than Jordan Love. So there's an argument.
The Kobe injury, and they didn't have most of the game. The Kobe injury is the only thing on the defense where you're like, you know, it's a little concerning, but at the same time, like,
I think it's more than a little.
Yeah, it's my point. That's my point. But I think regardless of that, especially with the way Vic has been able to, you know, sub guys in over the years, Isaiah Rodgers getting time to makes a big play right away, all that. Like, I do think that you have to trust this defense until they give you a reason not to. And maybe that'll be because of the injury or not, but it's just been like think about it this way, other than the game where Hurts got concussed and it's like the weirdest game ever, they didn't give up 20 points to a team since the bye.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, they've been awesome.
So someone just put in the chat, and Tucker put it up there. I think it was 2020 Eagles vision, like that they were a physical team. And that's so true. Like just coming into this game, and this is why I love their hype video so much going into the playoffs. The whole vibe of the hype video was like, we're going to hit you and we're going to be the physical team and we're the hunters, right? Like we're going after this. And that's what they look like today. There we go. Tucker put it back up. They looked like the more physical, like this was a big boy football game. And I'll keep saying that, but like, It's cold. The atmosphere was
Totally.
crazy.
How
It's
many
Eagles,
injuries? How many guys
Packers.
got
Yes.
hurt? Like, yeah, it was
Eagles,
physical.
Packers, 4:30 playoffs, like national game, like, and they showed up. And the defense again showed up big time. And here's what I'll say about the offense. Maybe we can move to them a little bit. So Jalen obviously was not great today. Held onto the ball. The sack he took was honestly one of the worst sacks I've seen since probably the safety he took against the Bucks. But it reminded me of that Carson play against the Cowboys from a bunch of years ago. Like that was a really bad sack to take. But here's what I'll say, man. Didn't turn the ball over. you
Yep.
know, like for all you want to say,
And didn't really come close.
didn't
I
really
don't
even come
think,
close.
right? Yeah.
Like for as bad as he was, the Packers turned it over 4 times, right? The Eagles, if they even turn it over once or twice, this pod could be a lot different. So
Totally.
as bad as Jalen was, look, even the Goddard throw in the play that he made, that was not a good throw. Like
No, dude. I didn't think he was
Goddard
gonna catch it.
adjusted
Got
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just that's why I think I gave Jalen a C minus, and I think on the
I
rewatch it
think
won't be
that's
as
too
pretty.
high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably too high, but
Yeah.
again, like you know me, I'm a turnover guy and I'm a quarterback win guy. And to win this playoff game and not turn it over, like he has to get some credit for that. He was not good, I agree, but this is what he does. He does not make like these game clinching mistakes. He just doesn't do it very often. We've seen him play what at this point, 60 games as a quarterback. How many times can you think of where he made there was that one against the Jets, and there's probably one or two more, but
Yeah, well,
very
especially if you throw 2023 out as like kind of an outlier, then it's
right.
like,
2022 and this year,
which
he
after
very
3 other seasons, it is the outlier in this specific perspective for
I
sure.
agree. Right. Yeah. So, like, as much as we can say, well, if Jalen plays this way, the rest of the playoffs, they won't win. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. Like, it's going to be tough to win next week if Jalen plays like that. But if you told me Jalen didn't throw a turnover, throw an interception next week or turn it over, I'd give the Eagles like a 90% chance of winning against whoever they play because the defense is that good. The running game is there. And when you have guys like Goddard, AJ, Devon, like this week it was Goddard. Next week it could be AJ. Could be like, they're going to make enough plays. Like, this team basically tripped into 22 points today. Like, they're never really going to be under 20 points. And this defense, to your point, hasn't given up 20 points except one time in like 3 months. So the winning formula is there if Jalen takes care of the ball.
Yeah, and look, I think that if you're looking at it with optimism, which you should, the Eagles just want to playoff
for sure. Everyone should be very
we
excited.
don't like
yes.
we went from 2009 till 2017 without a playoff win. Like 8 years. We've gone longer stretches in my lifetime. Like, treasure them all. But I do think you can look at it and say we came into this game expecting Hurts to look rusty and look like
he did.
played it. And I think we all expected him to figure it out a little quicker than he did, and he didn't. And that's okay. He did get a little better towards the end of the games that went on, and he didn't make massive mistakes that crippled them other than that sack, like you said. So I do think that, I expect him to be better. Like, I would be shocked if that's the version of Jalen Hurts that we get next week. Like, Is he good enough? We'll find out. I think he is. I certainly think he is with this group to win. But, like, I don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy we saw today moving forward. Like, I don't think this is like look at Jalen. Like, I think he hadn't played in 3 weeks. Is already a guy who starts slow and kind of looks rusty to start any football game, even if he played a week ago.
Yeah.
And I think that he kind of was rusty at first, kind of got in a rhythm and never really got where he needed to. But to your point, because this team is so good defensively, because the running game was just good enough today. And look, Hurts was great with his legs too. A few called back and stuff, but
for sure.
He looked spry. He wasn't scared to mix it up that way.
Yeah.
And then again, like on top of that, the other thing that gave him an edge today, and it's always me having to bring it up, but this team is so well coached, and you saw with the
100%.
Packers so many mistakes, so many issues, like the calling that timeout like 4.5 minutes. Like, there's so many weird things that LaFleur does in a game and the coaching staff does. And like Sirianni and Fangio, Kellen Moore, I don't think had a particularly good game, but also I think it's hard to figure out with the Jalen rust and what was going on. But, like as a team, in terms of coming ready to play, in terms of not playing sloppy football, in terms of everyone being where they need to be and being able to execute other than, rust and stuff.
Yeah.
I think they nailed it. And obviously Vic did a great job again. So I just think that, to your point, it was a really professional win. What you said before, where you're like, how many games have we seen where like the Eagles will go up and we feel like it's like 10-0 and it should be like, it should be 25-0. And then they lose because they didn't get that dagger early enough. This game, they they suffocated them. We had a caller on WIP like a month or so ago say like the Eagles are like they suffocate teams, and I was like,
it's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it. Yeah,
they just with the long drives, with the great defense, with the defense forcing them to take forever on drives, like all this stuff. Like they're just like they grind the hope out of teams. They suffocate them, and I think today was such a perfect example of that. When you really don't have your A game, or you have a nothing close offensively, but yet you're good enough running the ball, making some plays here and there with Devontae making some plays, Goddard making some plays, and then a defense that dominates. And it's not you can't always win that way. Like the Detroit Lions probably would have put up more points than the Packers did today. But you know what? For the first game of the playoffs that we expected to be the rustiest, you know what? They won by 12 points. They won by 12 points.
Look, the offense will need to be better.
By more than double what this.
I know. There you go. Good for you, by the way. You got the pick there. But look, to beat the Lions, they're going to have to play better. But I think they showed qualities today of why they could beat the Lions. They're a tough team. And to your point about suffocating, they don't get. Good.
Sorry, I have one other thing to your point about the video. That's been Sirianni all year with the coaching thing. I was going to say that's been the message. Every time we play a video of him in the locker room or this or that, it's always tough and together. We're physical. The Baltimore press conference where someone asked him like, "How'd you match Baltimore's physicality?" And he's like, "They match ours, dude." Like it's just been the identity of the team all year, and I love it.
Well, and I think that what'll happen tomorrow is people go like, well, the Bills played way better. The Texans won by a lot. We'll see what happens in the NFC games. It's worth mentioning the Eagles probably had the toughest first round game of any higher seed. Absolutely. So when you compare to how they played against other teams, like I don't really think you can do that, to be honest, because like they had a very unique matchup. But here's the last thing I'll say before I have to go down to the locker room, or actually two things. One, perfect Jake Elliott game where you can still be concerned, but I can point to that he made the two kicks he had to make when he was clutch. I'm not going to
criticize him today, especially that first one after missing the extra point.
Yeah, big time kick.
Think the entire Delaware Valley, I didn't care if it was a 5-yard field goal. The entire Delaware Valley was holding their breath, and he nailed it.
Same, me too. Well, I texted it was, I think it was in this chat or with in our chat or with another one. I was like, all right, I'm officially worried about Jake Elliott for the first time when he was going out there.
6-9 was massive there too. Like if he misses that and it's a 6-point game still, it could change the whole momentum of everything.
100%. So the last thing I'll say before I get down to the locker room is that like what you said about the playoff wins is just so true. Like think about, all right, they won 2 home games in 2017. Before that, what was the last home playoff game they won? It'd been a while,
like
right?
04,
04, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So
it was definitely 04.
As much as Nick and Jalen have won a ton of games together, and they have won a ton of games together, if they lose this game,
06 maybe did they win the Garcia game at home? Maybe, but either way, a long time.
Maybe right. If they it's okay. If they lose this game, then you're talking about 4 years in the playoffs, 3 of which are one and done. Like the 2022 one starts to become a bit more of an outlier. So as much as it wasn't pretty and like whatever, like that's a huge win for Nick and Jalen to get out of this round next week. I think you're going to end up with a very winnable game. Doesn't mean it'll be easy. It's not, but like that was such, man, like a sigh of relief of like, okay, because if they lose that game, like think of how ugly this is. What about Nick? What about Jalen? They're 3 and out, like all those things, right? So to come away with that win, like it's just it was a massive win, and it sounds silly to say about a playoff game because they're all massive, but like man, they needed that one and they got it, and like now the run begins. Like now they can take a deep breath and go, you know what, we got our first win, we got the Jalen start up from under our belt. Like now they'll have a full week of like just. So like, man, oh man, they needed that one. And look, we get another full week of daily pods. We get a game next week. Quick question before I go, actually. So if the Bucks win tonight, it's the Bucks. If
if they lose, it's whoever wins tomorrow night.
All right. So what's your preference or prediction?
I want
Give me both.
The Rams most, Bucks second most, Vikings last. But I think it's going to be the Bucks. I think the Bucks win tonight. That's my guess. But we'll see.
I think the Bucks win as well. For me, it's like I want the Rams, sizable gap, and then honestly, Bucks and Vikings are somewhat tied.
It's still like probably a bit of a gap between Bucks and Vikings for me. Like the Vikings are the clear one I want the least, but I agree with you. It's like Rams clear most.
Yeah, I just think the Bucks would come in here with Baker. I don't know, but like honestly, if the defense plays like this, they'll beat all 3 of those teams, in my opinion.
Totally.
So
All
right, man. We got
real quick. We got another week of daily pods.
I'll see you at 10 a.m.
Real quick. 2 things. We are going to talk about the AJ thing. I want to wait to see what he says about it. The reading the book on the sideline thing. We'll see what that's all about.
All right, can I give you my official take?
Real quick, yes.
Like, who cares, bro? Like, who cares?
I am generally there too. Last thing I promised her, she was good and quiet sitting next to me the whole time. Zoe.
Oh,
Zoe,
this is amazing.
you want to come on? Here we go. Come on.
We need it.
Here
We need
go.
an Eagles.
There's
We need an
Elliot.
Eagles chant.
Yeah,
Hey,
you want to say
what's
go
up?
Birds?
Go Birds.
Yeah.
There it
who did we
is.
beat today? Who was the team we hated? The Packers, right?
Packers.
Yeah. Go Birds.
Love it. Love it.
All
This is
right,
the best way to end it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like Nick. I'm like Sirianni. Here
Wow.
we go.
Oh my
Full
God.
Circle. Full circle.
Dude, this might have got you on the island.
Oh,
This might have been
get
get you on
This for Nick
Sirianni
right here. It's
Island.
for you, Nicky.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
We'll be back tomorrow. We may know who they're playing. If not, we'll know one of the two teams. Either way, we'll react to it. Hell yeah, man. Big win. Big
Yes,
win.
sir.
We'll talk more about it tomorrow and everything. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Zoe. I love you. Elliot, I love you too.
Love you
And
too,
I love
buddy.
all of you. I love the Eagles.
Let's go.